Yeah.
Well, it's been a very horrific time recently, devastation, and it's a sad time as well. So we pray. Almighty God, grant to us all needed guidance, wisdom and judgment as we face the tasks before us, and enable us now and always worthily to discharge the sacred trust placed by the people in our hands. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Apologies.
Councillor Rabbit, Your Worship.
Any more? Declarations of interest. Move apologies be received.
Seconded.
Seconded. Any discussion? Question? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
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 Against, carried. Declarations of interest. Been no changes there. Thank you. Public forum. No. Thank you. We moved that the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the Infrastructural Services Committee held on the 22nd of March 2022 be received.
I will move those minutes, Your Worship.
Seconded, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion, questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. That the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the Performance Policy Partnerships Committee held on the 22nd of March 2022 be received.
I'll move those, Your Worship.
I'd second those, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Be moved that the minutes of the meeting of Council held on the 22nd of March 2022 be confirmed.
I shall so move, Your Worship.
Seconded, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. The minutes of the Risk and Insurance Committee meeting held on the 24th of March 2022 be received.
I'll move those, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussion? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. That the minutes of the Bluff Community Board meeting held on the 28th of March 20.
Seconded, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
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 Against, carried. The minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the Infrastructural Services Committee held on the 5th of April 2022 be received.
Yes, I'll move those and also the resolutions adopted within.
Thank you.
Happy to second those, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
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 Against, carried. Now recommending we do have to take them one at a time. Well, sorry, it's what? Still can't hear. We approved all of that. Okay. So we've moved out on my agenda, and we go now to item 8. Recommended that Council adopt a revised roading and traffic bylaw to incorporate the following changes, also consulted on alongside the speed review.
Just excuse me, Your Worship, with in tab 9, which was the minutes of the extraordinary infrastructure 5 April, regarding the speed deliberations, when I moved the minutes, I also included the adoption of the resolutions that are in there.
That's item 10.
We've actually got 4 infrastructure meetings that occurred that month.
Okay. So start with item 10, that the minutes of the Infrastructural Services Committee meeting held on the 5th of April 2022 be received.
I'll move that, Your Worship.
I'd second that, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Move to 11. That the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the Infrastructural Services Committee held on the 5th of April 2022 be received.
Yeah, I'll move that, Your Worship.
Moved. Is there a seconder?
I'd second those, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussion? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Item 12, that the minutes of the Performance Policy and Partnerships Committee held on the 12th of April 2022 be received.
I'll move that, Your Worship.
Second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion, questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Order of the candidates' names for the local government triennial elections 2022. Now this is where we have to make a decision. Oh, thank you, Michael.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. Kia ora, councillors. As I'm sure most of you are aware, October marks the upcoming triennial elections. This is the last part for the council to determine before we head into those, and that is the order of the candidates' names. You have 3 options. Option 1, as I'm sure you're very familiar with, is alphabetical, so surnames listed in the voting papers in your alphabetical order. Then there is the nicely named pseudo-random. Pseudo-random is where there is a random draw of candidate surnames, and that order is how every voting paper will show. So my voting paper will show the same random order as yours. And then there is the true random, which every voting paper is different. And as we discovered last year when a concerned voter rang us, that included actually alphabetical is a random computation. It actually happened. I gave up trying to work out the maths on the chances. So the option is for you. Last time in 2019, this council moved to fully random for the first time. As you'll see in my report, there is an increasing move by councils to adopt a fully random listing of candidates by surname. And with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Ludlow.
Thanks, Michael. Is there much of a cost difference between pseudo-random and random? I'm just thinking of printing setup.
Yeah, there's no cost difference, but our providers tell us that the pseudo-random is actually more confusing for their computers than random. I haven't got to the bottom of why that is, but that is their indication to us.
I'm contemplating a puzzled computer. Open the pod bay doors, hell. Thanks.
Yes, further questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Soper.
It's not a question, Your Worship. I was just going to say that I'm prepared to move the recommendations with option C, random order, for recommendation 2.
I would second that motion.
It's moved and seconded. Discussion? Questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Amendment to the governance statement. Council appointee to Bluff Community Board, alternate. Who's taking us through that?
Yep, still here, Your Worship. I've got the next 2 papers, so this one and the following one. So, Your Worship, this is a very simple report. Given Councillor Kett is unable to continue in his role as the alternate to Councillor Arnold on the Bluff Community Board, a change needs to be effected for the balance of the term, and this will amend the governance statement, keeping all things accurate. And Councillor Munson has indicated she is willing to take on the role as the alternate to Councillor Arnold for the Bluff Community Board. So with that, as ever, happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councillor.
I'd just like to move that motion, Your Worship.
Oh, thank you.
Second that, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Invercargill City Charitable Trust, appointment of an additional trustee.
Yes, Your Worship, another one from me, my final paper for today. This is, again, a consideration just in light of the likely increased workload for the charitable trust and its asset to help the current trustees through that for the balance of the traineum. And on that, I understand that Councillor Soper has indicated she is willing to be appointed to this role. And as ever, I'm happy to answer questions. And I note, Your Worship, that Councillor Clark has his hand up on Zoom.
Oh, there you are. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Do you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Several things for the report for me. On page 75 of board books, I don't think it's appropriate to suggest that Councillor Soper's appointment would give a gender balance. At this level of an organisation and a governance structure, it's the best person for the job. So while I'd be happy if the council was to appoint Councillor Soper, if that's the outcome we come to, I think the issue of being a gender balance should not be a consideration. I think that's belittling to the skills that she brings. It makes no difference whether she's a male or a female, to my way of thinking. The other issue for me as one of the 3 trustees that are currently on the trust is I'm not sure where the justification for the extra position is. I've spoken to the Chief Executive today about this. It creates two dynamics. One, it puts 4 trustees in place. And so if there is any discussion about what decision making goes on at that level, what happens when you have a 2-2 split? Who has the casting vote? Well, apparently nobody does. And so an even number is not an appropriate level. In my time on the trust, we've done very little in our 3 monthly meetings other than focus on Rugby Park. And so given that we've probably at best got 2 more meetings, possibly a third, before the change of council, I'm not sure why we would change our structure and add another person. And that's no disrespect to Leslie, and I appreciate she's put a hand up for it. But at the moment, it seems to work okay. And as the report quite clearly states, that if we appoint or don't appoint at the beginning of the new triennium, there will need to be reappointments. I mean, one, I'm leaving anyway, but even if I wasn't, the trustees would still have to be confirmed at that stage. So to me, that's the best time to be looking at who you have on it, what the future workload's going to be, and where the focus will be. And certainly some understanding of the issues at Rugby Park would be important. But I certainly don't agree with the gender balance issue. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Councillor Pottinger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, the report states that there will be extra workload, so I will go by the report and obviously support that a 4th person is needed. And I think more the merrier. It provides a different viewpoint than 3. You've got the balance. If someone's away, you can still meet, and it's an effective group. So I see a lot of good reasoning why there is a 4th appointee.
Councillor Ludlow.
Thank you, Your Worship. Did you move?
No, I haven't moved yet.
Look, I'm happy to move the recommendations. I know that potentially there is concern over 2-2 voting, but I think in this instance, if we were in a position where the trustees were split, then that's just a need for more discussion and more information until you achieve a decision by consensus.
Almost a safety valve.
Thank you, Your Worship.
I believe
Thank you.
Councillor Cricket indicated she was interested in speaking.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you, Your Worship. Excuse my little sick child that's popping in and out here. I really was just going to ask if this was going to make it significantly easier to achieve quorum, but I think Councillor Ludlow also mentioned that fact. Yeah, I'd be happy to support it.
Thank you. Further discussion, questions?
Are you seconding it, Alex?
Yes, yeah, I'd be happy to second it on the proviso that it's quite clear that it would be easier to achieve quorum and the report states it's needed.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Right?
Aye.
Your Worship, I've got my hand up.
Oh,
So the way to avoid the need for further discussion and voting on a 2-2, and as some of my colleagues have said, to have new ideas come in, why don't we add 2 more things? Because the trustee does allow 5 trustees, currently got 3. Why couldn't we bring 2 more people in? That would cover the potential for me to be leaving at the end of the term and potentially for there to be a change of the mayorship as well. It's only a couple of meetings.
well, I prefer to keep to maintain the status quo unless there's good evidence that change is needed.
So because there's a motion, Your Worship, that would require an amendment.
I'm happy to move an amendment that we appoint 2 trustees.
Moved, seconded.
I'll second the amendment, Your Worship.
Point of order, I think Councillor Scott would have a conflict of interest as a venue manager. Sorry, Michael, no disrespect.
And Councillor Ludlow would be correct. I'll second that, Your Worship.
Or Alan did.
So we've got a mover and seconder for that amendment. Any further discussion or questions?
Point of order, Your Worship. Can you just clarify whether or not the vote actually took place, please?
Councillor Clark did have his hand up indicated it was missed.
God, blimey. Aren't they? What?
You're not muted, Nobby.
Not that matters.
So we've got a mover and seconder for the amendment. Sorry, I can't hear. Well, it's suggested that we don't have to have an amendment because the vote
Because the
is
trustee allows up to 5. Is that correct?
you have to put the original motion to the vote. All right. I wasn't looking at the screen at the time, I admit, so taking advice.
Your Worship, it might assist the councillors if they could hear the officer's advice to you.
So, Your Worship, we are currently in a position where we haven't had a vote on the original. So we still need to have a vote taken in relation to the original and then the amendment.
Point of order, we would take a vote on the amendment first before the original.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct. So we need to go through with the vote on the amendment that's been placed forward, and then do a vote on the original should the amendment be lost.
Yes.
Okay. Could you speak into the microphone a bit louder so that all the councillors can hear?
Yes, sorry, Your Worship. So we need, I'll just make sure the microphone's working. We need to go through and do a vote in relation to the amendment. If the amendment is lost, then we would vote on the original. So we have not had a vote on the original, just to clarify, so it did not get to vote stage, so would like to clarify that. That is currently approved and seconded.
Okay. Councillor Ludlow.
Thanks, Your Worship. May I ask a question of clarification which Mr Morris may be able to help? As I understand it, and as Councillor Clark pointed out, the trust deed allows for up to 5 trustees anyway. So is the amendment even necessary? Could we just appoint Councillor Soper now, and we have until the next meeting to see if there's anybody else interested and appoint them as well?
Yep. So through you, Your Worship, the answer to that is yes, that is correct. The trust deed allows up to 5 trustees to be appointed, and that is an option available, but would require further amendments to the recommendation should that be the course of action desired by Council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, point of order, Your Worship. Just for point of clarification, the trust that we're referring to has a meeting this Friday. I think it would be wise to have, if we're going down the path of having two people appointed, to have both of them appointed there. I understand there will be a presentation from staff at that meeting about the earthquake-prone report that they now have from BMC on the stadium. It's probably a very important issue, and it would be important that both trustees, if they were to be appointed, are on top of that issue.
Your Worship, a question, if I may, and it's not a procedural one, but it is more to the point of, is there anybody else who is interested in putting themselves forward? Because if we're going to sit here and not find somebody, that may be an exercise in futility.
Does it have to be a councillor?
Yes.
Okay.
Under the current trustee, Your Worship, yes.
So is anybody interested in fulfilling this position? All right, well.
Your Worship, if I can contribute, I've got my hand up again. I didn't pick up why Councillor Skelt had a conflict of interest.
My reasoning was that he's a manager of another venue in town, so potentially in competition they could be competing for similar events.
Just a point of clarification, Your Worship, was Councillor Skelt on the appointment from council for the places and spaces review that was done?
No.
He wasn't. Thank you.
I'm happy to help out the Your Worship if that's required.
So you're prepared to be a trustee?
Yeah, happy to help out.
That's one position filled and one to go.
We've already got one nominee. So.
Okay. Put that to the vote.
Your Worship, you'll need a change to the current amended motion to appoint Councillor Arnold as well. You currently don't have a motion to do that. I think Councillor Clark has his hand up. He may be willing to do that.
More than happy to do that, Your Worship. That the original amendment I put was to appoint two more trustees, up to the total of 5. Happy to name them as Councillor Soper and Councillor Arnold.
Thank you. That sorts that out.
You now need a second to Your Worship, and then we're almost there.
I'll second that. Further discussion?
I think the minutes are just catching up, Your Worship.
Was Councillor Arnold, so it's actually here, but it's not him.
Sorry, it's what?
So, apologies, Your Worship, the minutes are just catching up with the various changes that have happened to the motions. I'm not sure why we don't have the big screen today. Clearly we've had a technology fail.
So what are you suggesting?
If we could, Mr. Day is ready.
Well, I thought we were about to have the shortest council meeting on record and one that would never be beaten thanks to COVID. But I think we're getting the issue in black and white now, almost.
4 councillors now.
Mr. Dave, is the big screen able to come down so we can see the wording? It's not there today. I think that might help.
Sorry, councillors coming.
He's going. Go.
Lower the cone of silence.
Thank you, Worship. The wording has been put up for the councillors. Just noting that we've now got the seconder and the person being nominated as the same person, so I would need another seconder.
His Worship.
It says Worship seconded it.
Worship. Well, thank you, Worship.
Thank you. So it's ready to go to the vote.
Do we have discussion on that?
Yes.
Yes, certainly. Councillor Pottinger.
Look, I would speak against the motion and the fact that a board of 4 trustees, I think, is more flexible. It's more practical. The increase of 33% was stated for the very reasons. I think that council is the ultimate decision maker when it comes to any financial things to do with Rugby Park. Everything has to come back through council. So I think 5 is one too many, and I will be voting for 4.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to?
Councillor Clark, his hand up, Your Worship.
Yes, Nobby. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. It's been my understanding that the trust has been in place since 2004, so that's 18 years. I understand that the only delay or lack of a quorum has been just the last one, which wasn't missed, it was just delayed for about a week and a half because I had an operation. So I don't think that that justifies having a third trustee. But I'll certainly go for the wider group because that was the thrust of some of my colleagues that said, and I quote, the more the merrier. And so that was my view on that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to that? I'll put it to the vote then. It's ready to go. All in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against?
Against.
Carried.
Perhaps a show of hands might be useful, Your Worship.
All right. If you've got any view at all, please put your hand up. All in favour say aye. You counting?
4, 2 over 3 over here. 3 here. 2 here.
Is anyone on the screen indicated a vote?
Yep.
5. I'll do that for us. 6.
Three in favour on Zoom.
Or you'll have to speak louder.
Your Worship, I will vote in favour. It has no financial ramifications, so I will vote in favour since there are no.
Motion is carried, sir.
Yep.
Since there are no financial ramifications, and for expediency, I will vote in favour of the motion. Thank you.
That's a majority. All right, we have a clear majority. Declare the motion carried. Is there any urgent business?
Perhaps before we move on to that, Your Worship, would any of those who didn't vote or were going to vote against it would like their votes recorded for the minutes? Just a point of clarification on that, Your Worship, to tidy it up.
Oh, okay.
Councillor
those
Scout
who-
has abstained. Apologies for that, Your Worship. I thought it was appropriate to have the minutes record that correctly.
Yeah, I'm against.
Anyone who wished to have their vote in opposition recorded? I think that was you, Councillor Pottinger.
So that's that done and dusted.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, councillors.
Okay. Is there any urgent business?
Yes, I have one, Your Worship. Just more of a notification, just to let my colleagues know that at Environment Southland tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. there is a presentation by the Helicopter Rescue Trust. That it would be helpful if somebody from council went. Obviously, Claire and I can't be there. We'd be the normal people to go. Out of the mayoral forum recently, there was some discussion around financially supporting this trust. Invercargill elected not to, but Gore and Southland District did. And at that time, the mayoral forum did suggest to Environment Southland that they'd be best placed because they have a ratepayer base much wider than the individual councils to pick up the $100,000 that was being looked for, which equates to about 83 cents per year per person, or about $2 per ratepayer per year. So that Helicopter Trust is doing a presentation. It's not open to Zoom. It will be taped according to the advice from our chief executive and be available at a later stage. But it would be helpful to have somebody there. So if somebody could go that has some history with it, Darren or somebody else, if that's possible. I can't make it. I could only Zoom.
Sorry, Your Worship, I'm already in a meeting.
And
Yeah.
I'm in the same meeting from 9 till 12.
So who is likely to be available from council?
What about you going, Your Worship?
I don't feel like it, but I'll go if it means we have a quorum.
Well, the presentation is not to the three councils. It's actually to Environment Southland. So they can consider whether they pick that up as part of their rate capture each year. Whether they would lobby their ratepayers.
So we don't need to, should we have a representative at that fundraising event, I suppose?
I think the meeting I have should be finished about 10, so I should be able to make it if nobody else can.
Yeah, thanks, Beck.
Well, maybe it's hard making a decision when you don't know what's likely to be on the table. So if that, an invitation can be sent to all councillors.
No, Your Worship. There's no decision making on behalf of the city. We've made our decision not to fund. The issue is should Environment Southland, on behalf of all ratepayers in Southland, fund the Helicopter Trust, and that was the collective view of the mayoral forum in Gore last time. So whoever goes, it's just a little bit more of an information share about what goes on, and I guess to enter into some debate from Environment Southland that the mayoral forum would like them to pick up that funding.
I'm actually just looking, there is an email from Liz that's just come through shortly before we started this meeting, and it will actually be live streamed.
So does that allow for a Zoom?
No, it's a live stream, so it just means that you can watch what's going on. Okay. There's a link in the email from Liz. Okay. And the meeting is tomorrow at 10:30.
Thanks for that.
Okay, well, you've all got the information on your whatever digit you're using. Do we have to put anything to the vote? Okay. Well, thanks very much to the members of the public, or member of the public and press. Appreciate your interest. And I'll move that we go into public excluded session.
I'd second that, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Put it to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's carried.